Right, James drives a car that you can hand on to your grandchildren. I engage reheat in a hot Saab. Good evening and welcome to the new Bentley Continental GT. Now, GT, as I'm sure you know, stands for Grand Tourer. So I took it on a grand tour to God's waiting room, the English Riviera. Our actual destination, as you can see on the satellite navigation system here, is Budleigh Salterton. And that's because in the olden days, that's who'd have bought one. Hello, my name's Budleigh Salterton, and I've got a Bentley Continental GT.
Well, that's the old-fashioned image of Bentley, but today, things have changed.
There's no way the aristocracy is going to buy this car. I mean, these days they have to burn their children just to stay warm. And all their furniture's held together by the moths that ate it. All their houses are drafty and cold. Look, there's a classic aristo house there. Look at that.
Because this costs £110,000, it's not a car for people who roast their children. I think it's more for people who like to roast their girlfriends, footballers, people called Gary and Wayne.
Presumably that's why this thing has a twin-turbocharged 6-litre W12 engine. Because you see, that way you'll be able to get from the shops to your drugs test in no time at all.
A colossal 550 brake horsepower gives a top speed of 198 miles an hour and 0 to 60 in 4.7 seconds. This, in other words, will outgun a Ferrari 575.
Normally, I will do anything to steer clear of the A303 because you always get stuck behind someone with enormous ears in a J-registered Rover 214, or, of course, a caravan. But in this it's no problem because you simply ease the gear lever into S for Star Trek warp factor mode and then engage the turbos. Whoa! That is so fast. We only need the tiniest little gap. There it is. Can't tell you how quick this is. And yet, despite this ferocious power, and it is ferocious, there's no sense when you're in here that you're in a stripped-out, hunkered-down racer. It's quiet and it's comfortable. There's wood and there's leather. It's like doing 5,000 miles an hour in Douglas Bader's sponge bag.
It makes you proud to be English, even though the engine does come from Volkswagen and the floor and the gearbox and most of the fixtures and fittings. Still, because it also has a Volkswagen four-wheel drive system, this big old bruiser does have tenacious grip. Useful on the winding lanes of Devon. It's extraordinary for a car that weighs the same as a Range Rover. It really does feel live and alive. It even stops properly because it has the biggest brakes ever fitted to any car. And it's a handsome brute as well. Even though it was styled by a Belgian, it'll look good parked between the pillars of a footballer's Cheshire mansion. However, behind the 18th century veneer, the interior is less successful. First of all, there's this door. You have to be a meat machine to close it properly. That's got it. And then, if you are a meat machine, you'll find it just a little bit cramped in here, chiefly because of these armrests. They force you to drive along like you've got some kind of sports injury. And if you put them down,
Listen. Driving along. How long before that would drive you up the wall? They are completely pointless. Speaking of which, this button here allows you to adjust the hardness of the suspension, like so. Why do you need that? Why would you want to make your Bentley more uncomfortable? It really is as useful as a snooze button on a smoke alarm.
But a slight sense of claustrophobia and the odd silly button are nothing compared to the Continental's biggest problem. It's Big Brother. The old four-door Renage is a symphony of pomp and circumstance, hope and glory, absolute power corrupting. Absolutely. Oh, it isn't very good, but there's such a sense of occasion when you drive it. This is the other way round. Brilliant, sensationally fast, handles beautifully, and it'll almost certainly be reliable. But it leaves you feeling just a little bit cold. It's a bit like Budley Salterton, actually. On the face of it, you'd like to live here. It sounds good, a small town on the coast of Devon. You'd like a piece of that action. But actually, there isn't any action. In a recent survey, Budley Salterton was named as Britain's most overpriced, dreary place. Everything is here, except the sparkle.
And that is what the Bentley's missing. The sparkle. The X factor that turns a really good car, which it is, into a great one. Which it isn't.
It's a bit harsh, Jeremy.
No. Yes, you're right, it was harsh. But the thing is, it was cruel but fair, because when you drive the Phantom, which BMW made, they've captured the essence of Rolls-Royce with that car. When you drive this, it is brilliant, make no mistake, but it does feel like a big Volkswagen.
All right, but it isn't actually putting anybody off. And here's a problem. They can make 3,500 of these a year. That's all. They already have 3,500 orders for next year just from America.
I know. And the sort of people who've ordered these things aren't the kind of people who like to be kept waiting. Bentley were telling me the other night when I ran into a few of them at a party, and they were saying that they've had people phone up saying, if I don't have my car by Easter, you're not welcome in my restaurant, or you're not welcome in my football club. They even had one call up and say, if I don't have mine by Christmas, you're not welcome in my country.
Right, the news. Now, we've heard from Nissan this week about a recall. Recalls, if you don't know, is when a manufacturer holds up its hands and say, yeah, there's a problem with one of our cars, bring it in and we'll fix it, they tell the owners. Usually there's 1,000, a few thousand, maybe a few 100,000. This particular recall is for 2.5 million Nissans. 2.5 million cars.
And what we were thinking was, where do you get the envelopes from?
Yes.
I mean, do you walk into the local envelope supplier and go, we'd like 2.5 million, and then you've got the photocopying down at Prontoprint. Could you copy this for
And
me,
somebody
please?
was given the list right to these people, tell them. But the bit that I like to think about particularly is, at some point, there must have been a moment in an office when somebody realised, ooh. And they had that long walk down the corridor to the big office and sort of...
Yes, what is it, Watkins?
You better not have mucked up again.
Not another recall, is it? How many is it this time? 100,000? 200,000? Come on, give me the worst.
2.5 million, sir.
2.5 million cars. I mean, how much is that going to cost in stamps?
Yeah, exactly.
Just before you get the car in to actually fix it, 2.5 million stamps.
Now, last week we were having a bit of a row about sports cars, and you championed the S2000 Honda, which was rubbish.
Is rubbish.
And interesting enough, Honda have improved it. They've given it...
Impossible to improve
No,
it.
they've given it a clock...
Yeah.
...and a fruitier horn tone.
Oh, that's nice. Does it look any different?
Well,
Is it the
look
same?
at that. Look at that.
That's a... Oh, no, it is a sports car.
Majesty.
You still lost
Am
there,
I
didn't
right
you?
about the Honda S2000?
No, you're
Hands
not.
up if you think I'm right. Hands up who was the S2000.
That's about
That's
three
a majority.
people. That was about 3 many people?
300.
And you're still lost.
If it had been dry, and if your two cars
Hadn't turned up.
it would have won.
Would it have won with the new horn tone?
No, the new
Or a
horn
clock.
tone is simply because of the speed it goes, you need a richer horn tone to get the... I was going to use the wrong word there, to get your cars out of the way.
It's so the deaf old buggers driving it, because it's a Honda, can hear the horns working at all. Can I talk about something else now, please? The police, it seems, are tired of people ripping up and destroying their speed cameras, which apparently does go on. So they've decided instead they're going to use old people. Sounds like a very good idea. They're going to arm... It's a pilot scheme. They're going to arm vigilantes with speed guns and then send them out into their communities to zap people.
To shock their neighbours.
What kind of a person is going to say, yes, that's the job for me, I'll get a speed camera, and it's a job for Paul Burrell.
There you go.
Everybody hates you already.
He's done his employers, now I'm going to do my neighbours and friends. But what kind of a country are we living in where people actually think that there will be people who say, yes, I want to go and catch that bloke at number 27 doing 31 miles an hour?
And the point is, the only people who'll have the time to do this, and even the police, I'm sure will admit this, are retired people. It's going to be old people in cardigans with little...
Yes, actually,
radar
we're
guns.
safe. We're safe. Let's imagine the scene in your little village. Oh, Doris, I think there's a car coming. Get your ray gun, let's go out and have a look. Oh, have you turned the kettle off?
Do you want to
Have
wee?
you locked all the... Have you been to the lavatory, Bill? Because you need to, because we'll be out for quite some time. Oh, come on, then. Have you locked the door? Have you locked the door? Oh, we've got the cats inside or out. Oh, I don't know. Here he comes. Come on, be quickly. Get your... That's not your radar gun, love. That's your hairdryer. Oh, Bill. Oh, Bill, you've come out in your slippers.
I've thought about this, actually. If you wanted to do it really cleverly, if you didn't like your neighbour, just ring them up at work, tell them the house is on fire and sit at the end of their road with your radar. This is an unusual thing. Jeremy, do you want to sit back and have a little nap or something? Because you're not going to be very interested. It's about a bike. Go away. Excellent. This is the Dodge Tomahawk. They built one of these things, and it's by Chrysler. They put the engine out the Viper, you know, the Viper, a great big engine, about 420 miles an hour, possibly, potential speed. Let's have a look at this thing. It's absolutely astonishing. They built one. They're going to actually sell them through
I
mail
don't
order.
think that's a bike.
Well,
it's
I have
got
one
four
worry.
wheels and a Dodge Viper engine.
see-
I call that a car.
I think they may have been confused.
We don't do bikes on this programme.
What is his problem?
Can I just ask you, though, Jeremy? I'm interested in this. What is it you don't get about bikes? I want to try and
I just
help
don't want
you.
to dress up like a Power Ranger and drive to a pub and drink orange juice all afternoon.
You like these cars that you get involved with, and so do I, and I'd never give up a car. But a bike, you are much more, back me up, at one with a bike. Your body
You're at one with
is
the bike
part
until
of
you hit the
physics.
tree, and then you're at one with that.
I think it's simply that you know deep down in your heart of hearts, if you were on a bike, you would look ridiculous.
Yes.
I would,
And that's what it-
because
yeah.
everyone on a bike with that leather arse. Look at that. Look at my bottom. Oh, I've got a zigzag blue thing on the front of my suit, and I'm wearing a hat like a terrorist. Have you ever fallen out of a car?
No.
Well, there you are.
Actually, I have.
Well, driving down the M40, here's a half-bridge, but I've fallen out.
That's user error. It's not obligatory.
Can I just move it on?
Yes,
I heard
please.
a great story this week. You know Travelodge, the little hotels at the side of the road? They've decided that now they will open up their rooms, rent them for half an hour at a time to tired motorists during the day. Cost you a fiver.
A gentleman and a lady motorist decide they need a little bit of a
That's,
break.
I immediately thought the same as
nap.
you.
Little
A
nap.
gentleman and a lady motorist are driving along and say, let's have a nap for half an hour for a fiver in the Travelodge. But no, they're actually saying the rooms are only single occupancy. They'll only allow you in there on your own.
So why would you want to have a
It's
nap?
his. I've just been looking
On
at this
your own.
picture of Pamela Anderson, and I need a nap for 5 minutes.
Here's yet another Jaguar concept car.
This one is called the RD6. It's made almost entirely of aluminium. It's very light, and it's powered, remarkably enough, by a turbocharged V6 diesel engine. But the bit I really like is the inside. Have a look at this. Now, have a look at that black leather and all those shiny bits and those red lights down in the footwell. Now, clearly, a Jaguar designer got completely lashed in a vodka bar. I thought, I'll make it look like this then. So obviously there'll be a bouncer on the door telling you can't come in because you've got trainers on.
It's a gorgeous-looking thing. I think
It
it's
is.
fab. But here's the thing I don't get about Jaguar concept cars. 2 years ago, about then, they showed us the XK180. And there it is. That was to show us what Jaguars of the future will look like. But then last year, they did the R Coupe to show us what Jaguars of the future will look like. And now they're back again with this to show us what Jaguars of the future will look like.
Now look, Jaguar, you have made your point. Just make the car.
Right, let's meet this week's guest. He's an actor, he's a comedian, he's responsible for Marion and Jeff, which I just love. Terrific television programme, and if we look down here, I think I'm right in saying, he's the first Welshman we've ever had on. Ladies and gentlemen, Rob Brydon! Now, we know the Scottish have given us really everything that matters in the world.
Yes.
And it would be cheap to say the Welsh have given us nothing.
Here we go, yes.
No, really, because we were working it out. Really, the Welsh have given the theatre everybody. Burton, Zeta-Jones, Hopkins.
Yes, but you see, you forget the big names, the big theatrical media names. Sian Lloyd, the weather girl.
Yeah, she's...
H from Steps.
Is he Welsh as well?
Yeah, I think H, actually, he's got a sort of mini Graceland now up in North Wales, where he comes from, and they get up to 6 or 7 visitors a year.
It is an astonishing thing. When you think about the great performances, it is Hopkins at the National and it is Burton at the Old Vic, whatever. You not really been there, have you? You're more famous for your car advertisement voiceovers. He is. Every time you hear a car advert on the television, I can pretty much guarantee he is the voice. But how many have you done now? There's the Ford Mondeo Tom and Jerry, that was you.
I think that's still running, yeah.
That's still running.
Yeah.
And what were the other ones?
I think the Renault Scenic at the moment.
How does that one go? I've forgotten it.
OK, you have to quiet for it. Ready? In the recent NCAP Euro crash tests, only one car in its class got 5 stars for safety. The new Renault Scenic.
It's him! Now, Marion and Jeff, I can't tell you how much I love it.
Thank you.
I do, and it's not just being nice because it's you and, you know, you're visiting England and everything. I really genuinely... I just can't miss it. There's a chap was telling me here, he's just the same. He just can't miss this thing. What gave you the idea? Have you seen it? It's basically, you're a sort of minicab driver, graduated now to be a chauffeur, and talking about your miserable life.
Well, Keith Barrett is his name, and his wife Marion has left him for a man called Jeff. So in the first series, he was a minicab driver. In the second series, he's graduated to become a chauffeur. And he just sits there telling you about his life. But he always sees the sort of silver lining. Somebody once said in a newspaper thing, he'd see the silver lining in a mushroom cloud.
He would, and it's just, the thing is, it's not comedy, is it? I mean, I want to show a clip of Marion and Jeff, because I love it, OK? And it's the bit where he's explaining what he would do if he were attacked by a terrorist.
So what I do, as a middle ground, I keep it under the seat. It belonged to my dad. It's a machete. And that's there as needs be. That's there as needs be, so... like that. So I spot trouble. I do keep an eye in the mirror. I look in the mirror. So here comes the terrorist. And I'm down. And I'm there. The fear is that I knock myself out on the steering wheel, or that I inadvertently set off the airbag. Let's just do that one more time. Relaxed. Mirror, mirror, terrorist. Down! Out! Up! It's not foolproof.
Now,
That's my mum.
For a man who has made his name in a car and by advertising them,
Oh, yes,
I
here
have
we
to
go.
say, no, I'm not going to let you off this. You have had the most wretched car history of anyone I've ever met. You start off, where were we? Radio DJ.
BBC Radio Wales. Good morning.
You bought yourself a Volkswagen Polo.
Brand new.
Brand new.
Yeah.
Things going well. Your next car is a third-hand Vauxhall Carlton. What on God's name possessed you to do that?
You know, my dad came across it. You know, it was reasonably priced. It was a big brown Vauxhall
Brown?
Carlton. Wait, let me finish. It was a big brown Vauxhall Carlton, and the inside was a kind of creamy sort of biscuit colour. It was velour, the seats. It was a nice car. It got me from A to B. That was not the worst of my cars.
What, you're trying to say the green Sierra?
Yeah, that
you
was the worst of the cars. That was.
What possessed you to do that?
And my dad came across it. You know, it was a good price.
Did you branch out on your own for the 1992 Ford Escort?
Now, the 1992 Ford Escort, I thought, and I don't know anything about cars, was
That's
quite
obvious.
a sexy little car. I quite liked it, actually.
Have you ever actually watched Top Gear? Because you might...
I've never seen a whole one, no. It clashes with Heartbeat, OK?
I know.
Which goes against you.
But I do make a special effort to watch Marion and Jeff. You should try and watch one all the way through. Because after the Escort, you're not going to believe this, ladies
I
and
know what you're
gentlemen.
going to say now, yeah, OK.
A Mitsubishi Charisma. Why on earth did you buy one of those?
Well, my dad came across it. By this time, my dad was and is working for Mitsubishi.
What did you do to upset your dad so much, though, over the years? It's that Rob, he's come round, I've got another magnificent car for him.
No, you're a snob.
And make no bones about it. I want to rescue people from bad cars.
I've
Rob.
already been rescued. I've got
You
an
have
Audi
now.
A4 convertible. What more do you want?
Well, what's happened to the Charisma?
I've given it to my girlfriend.
So you bought a petrol engine Audi A4 convertible?
Yeah, yeah.
You see, it's a nice car. I mean, don't let anyone sit in the back.
Why?
Anyone who sits in the back of a four-seater convertible looks like Hitler. He was the only man, or maybe Mussolini.
He was the only man who looked good in the back of
Yeah.
a four-seater convertible.
He was. You need to just bear that. If somebody says, oh, I'll go in the back, advise against it.
I'll say
Advise
9.
they go on the bus or something.
OK.
Now, it is
Now.
time, I think, to start looking at your performance, really, today. You're probably, actually, come to think of it, the first person ever to drive that. I think, yes, it's a nice car. I can
Yes.
Shall we
Right.
see how you got on?
Yeah.
Now, I should explain, before we start, we did put the camera today in the Marion and Jeff position
Yeah, on the
for
other
you,
side,
so
yeah.
that you were able to, if you felt the need, because we knew you'd be out there some time, getting round the lap, to do a little bit of Marion and Jeff for us. Here we go. Well, wheel spin start. First time with wheel spin?
Yeah.
I have to say, all around, a very nice ride.
That's very smooth.
And I wouldn't be at all surprised to hear that Jeff has got himself one of these as well. Having a bit of fun, taking the kids out with him, my little smashers. I think they'd have a lovely time together. All of them chanting in the back, singing songs. Oh.
Now, this is where you'll be caught out.
Oh, you know what?
Yeah,
What?
no, you stayed online.
Oh, sugar babies. There we go. Right, I'm doing 75 miles an hour.
Final corner, Michael Gambon. Ladies and gentlemen, he's across the line now.
You know, before I came on, in my little heart, I mean, going, oh, maybe I was quite fast. I wasn't, was I?
Well,
that was really slow.
where would you like to be?
I'd like to beat Steve for obvious
What,
reasons.
Coogan?
Yeah.
Steve Coogan.
Steve
he
Coogan,
produces your show, and you are mates. I am aware of this. Well, he did it in 1 minute 54 seconds. Soaking wet day, I remember that. Absolutely pouring with rain. But we do say that if it were dry, you go 4 seconds faster. So he's at a 1 minute 50. You'd like to beat him. let me tell you something. Realistically, that was never going to happen, was it?
don't say that.
But it did.
Seriously?
You went faster than that. You want to know something more amazing? You did it in 1 minute, 48 seconds. It's astonishing but true. It's okay if Jodie or Jay, if you're watching, he was 0.6. So
I don't care.
actually fits in just there in 3rd place.
I'm speechless.
Are you really expecting to get a Christmas card from Coogan this year? I think not.
I'm almost crying.
That is honestly, for the worst car buyer we've ever had, one of the greatest drivers. Ladies and gentlemen, Rob Brydon.
Earlier, we saw Jeremy driving this Bentley Continental GT, and he pointed out, quite rightly, that it's as new money as an Onyx mug tree. And that had me wondering, what's the old money being spent on these days?
The British toff. Though rare and endangered, they are easy to identify.
Well done, Rupert.
They are most readily spotted in the countryside, because they own it. Distinguishing features include their clothing, which used to belong to their parents, and their characteristic mating call of harumph. Everything they have, like their families, their titles and their houses, is very old. Because toffs don't buy things, they only inherit them. And this includes their cars, which are oily old bags of bolts and smell of dogs. In fact, the aristocracy just doesn't care for spending money on transport.
Let's imagine you're master of all you survey, and it's most of Buckinghamshire. And let's imagine the time has come to replace the ancestral transport. Now, this means you're going to have to do something very unaristocratic. Buy a brand new car. Well, here it is. It's the new Subaru Legacy Outback.
So, why this? Why not something German and obvious? Well, for a start, it's very discreet, and your lord and ladyship don't want anything too showy. Bad form. Its radiator grille has no real presence. In fact, it has the look of a car you could lose in a station car park, and that's just perfect. Secondly, the Outback is tough and well built, so it can be handed on from generation to generation. It has an excellent four-wheel drive system and good ground clearance, which is useful because the drive up to the house was built by William the Conqueror, and it's a bit rough.
And just look at these materials. Look at this gear knob. It's going to take years for the dog to chew its way through that lot. I heard a story recently about a landed lady who bought one of these for her farm manager. But when she tried it, she decided it's far too good for him. So she kept it. Charlie, come on.
And frankly, that's as it should be, because the knobs have always liked Subaru, and there's a good reason for that. When the first ones came to Britain in 1977, there were no dealers, so they were sold alongside muck spreaders and tractors at farm equipment showrooms, just the sort of place where the landed gentry hangs out. This also meant they didn't have to go into town and visit a car dealership, where they might have had to mingle with the proletariat. Now, to be honest, previous legacies were a bit agricultural. They had harsh interiors and rather lumpen engines.
But this new one is much, much more sophisticated. Now, that's probably not of much concern to the posh people up in the big manor house, but it makes it much more appealing to those of us in the grasping lower orders.
Now, Now, Lord Bufton, he doesn't really care that the engine is a brand new 3-litre flat 6. But of course we do, because it's smoother and more powerful than the old 4-cylinder donkey engine you used to get. You probably also won't notice that the interior is now much smarter, because what's the point when it'll all be eaten by the dog anyway?
But the rest of us are actually chuffed to bits in our small-minded and aspirational sort of way. Because the interior of this car used to be very basic and hosed down, but now look at it. It's like a Honda. And look at these gadgets. This is one of the finest satellite navigation systems I've ever used. Mind you, it's a bit pointless if you really are an aristocrat, because then you'd own a whole county, and you can't fit that on the screen. I almost forgot to tell you what it's like to drive. Well, I quite like it, actually. It's relaxing and it's unstressful.
Agreeable is probably the right word. Nothing more than that, but that'll be plenty. Finally, we come to the vulgar business of money. This car will cost £28,000, which seems a lot. But then again, it's expected to last for several hundred years.
One day it will be very old and battered and probably a bit whiffy. But it'll be around long after socialism and the fox hunting ban have been completely forgotten.
Maybe the aristocrats aren't quite as daft as they look. They don't spend money very often, and when they do, they spend it very carefully. Once every few generations, they might get a new coat, or have the roof done, or buy a car. This should be all the car they'll ever need. And I knows my place, so it'll do for me as well.
Right, what I have here are the results of the 2003 BBC Top Gear Motoring Survey. This is the biggest survey ever undertaken into how satisfied you are with your car, how reliable it is, how good the dealer is to you, the lot. And I think we had, what, 43,000 responses to this.
And there are 137 cars in it, and I'd just like to point out that the Subaru Legacy, the old one admittedly, came 10th.
Which is very good.
It's very good, but it's not surprising. What is surprising is the car that came first out of all 137.
Not the Lexus?
No,
Lexus
not a
always win.
Not this time, because it is the Jaguar XJ. There's one over there. That's incredible. And it didn't just do well, it did astonishingly well. It got the maximum 5 points in nearly everything, apart from practicality, I think, and it got 4 in that anyway, so that's brilliant.
One thing even more amazing than that, though, OK? Anyone want to hazard a guess at what came last? The least reliable, nastiest car where the dealers really hate you. Want to hazard a guess? Vauxhall. Vauxhall? No, completely wrong. It is the Volkswagen Charan. The horrible people carrier. If only everything in life was reliable as a Volkswagen, you'd never get on another plane as long as you live. Your dog would die every 15 minutes.
This whole survey throws up some fascinating stuff, like the Porsche 911, a favourite car of mine, known for its somewhat scary handling sometimes. 96% of 911 owners in this survey claim to be absolutely satisfied with their car's handling, which is very good. It leaves 4%, and they probably were entirely satisfied with the handling of their 911 right up until they hit the tree. Then they changed it.
Yeah, but think of it this way. The people who got their bone marrow and their eyes are very satisfied with the handling of a 911. Let's just run this one round the room. Let's just find out. What do you drive, sir?
355.
A Ferrari.
Yeah.
There's an interesting statistic on Ferrari. What is it, James?
90% of people who said they had a Ferrari were lying.
It's true, honest, it's true. People were actually filling in the form, and then we checked everything, or the company that did it checked everything with the DVLA. 90% hadn't got a Ferrari. And you think, why did you do that? What did you think some really beautiful girl was going to... Ooh, there's a bloke here with a Ferrari, I'll ring you. It's a computer! What have you got?
Golf Mark IV.
A Mark IV Golf. Now, there's an interesting one with Golf, isn't there?
Yeah. Now, there's a lot of cars based around the Golf. You know, all the Seats, the Beetle, the Audi A3, the Audi TT...
They're all
some
Golfs
Skodas.
with different bodies and different badges, OK?
Yeah. Now, which do you think is the worst of all the Golf-based cars?
Skoda.
It's the Golf, you're right. The worst Golf is a Golf.
If you want to buy a Golf, don't get a Golf.
That's
Get one of the
basically
other
what we've
Golfs.
learned from this survey. It's a beard.
Subaru Impreza.
There's always one, isn't there? Every single week we come down here and there's a fleet of Subarus. Do you want to know where it came?
Yeah, go on.
What are we?
15.
15th most reliable car. So not as good as the Outback. You don't, but why? Is it not reliable?
No, I keep mucking it up.
You keep mucking it up.
I'm part of your group of... I've messed up my car with a stupidly big exhaust as well.
Oh, really? How big are we talking?
4 inches.
Do girls come running up to you? Not with that
No.
beard, actually. Silly question. Sorry, what have you got?
Passat.
A Volkswagen Passat. Well, oh, yeah, exactly. What a man. Where does it come?
78.
78th, yeah.
78th most reliable cars. And actually, while we're on the subject of this German business, there's a chap over here I was talking to earlier, OK? You've got a Mercedes. Mercedes, OK? Now, they are a byword for durability. Where's yours?
Well, it's gone to have its MOT today, but unfortunately I did a pick-up this morning and it broke down on the way to Tony Perslow in Guildford.
So it broke down on the way to the dealer. This is not the first time. Mercedes, do you want to know where the best Mercedes came? The highest place Mercedes was? 57th. And if you look at the bottom 10 or 11 places, OK, the bottom 10 or 11, that's where you normally find the Alphas and the Renaults and the Citroens. You find the M-Class, the A-Class and the C-Class, all sitting in there. If you want to find out how your car did, all of these results are on our website, which you can find on a computer, I suppose, at work tomorrow. Can we do something important?
Yes.
The cool wall.
Oh, yes.
A lot of
good to be
cars.
back.
We've done a lot of cars in the last few weeks. We haven't put them up. We're going to start with the Bentley Continental GT. Where do we think? Cool? No, it's cool. OK, well, thank you all for your opinion. It's cool.
It is cool.
Aha! However, with a proviso. As soon as you open your copy of the Sun newspaper and you see that Mr. Beckham has taken delivery of his, it's on its way down. But for now, since he doesn't have one, it's a cool car.
The BMW M3 CSL. You drove it. It is a fantastic car.
Sub-Zero.
Sub-Zero. What do we think? Anyone else?
Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero.
All of them totally wrong.
How can it be cool if you have to explain that's my carbon roof? That is not cool.
That is going to be bought by the sort of man who lies awake at night thinking of his gear shift aggression strategy for the drive to work the next day. This is not just uncool like an M3. That is in there. That is true. It's true. Now then, Ford GT, the new one.
That's a tricky one.
Let me hear some opinions on this. What do you think?
Sub-Zero.
Sub-Zero?
Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero.
No, we got one over here.
Seriously uncool. Needs to be in light blue and orange.
Yeah, but
I'll be Sub-Zero.
OK, if it were light blue and orange, you're referring to the Gulf colours. I
Absolutely.
can match your anorak levels here easily.
Thank you.
Then it would be OK.
It will be Sub-Zero.
Sub-Zero, if you get the colours right, it's a good point. Anyone over here got opinions on the Ford GT?
It's a very cool car.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Pretty cool.
Not a democracy here. You're cool.
No, you're wrong. No, that's wrong. Now, look, if this were a Ferrari, I think I'd be with you. They might disagree. But it's not a Ferrari. It's got a kind of retro something. It's like those 70s shades with the holes down the side and the big... It's cool. That is a cool car.
If you were to turn up to someone's house in a red American car with white stripes down the side, they'd pretend to be out.
You're talking about the Starsky and Hutch car. This is a retro supercar. It's essentially cool.
Right. There is just one proviso on that. If I buy one, it'll be moving up a bit.
Funny that. All right. Funny that. Right, here's one that I drove, and this is a truly awesome car. The Porsche 911 GT3. Fabulous.
Uncool.
They're
No, it's just
getting it.
why is this uncool?
It's just a 911.
It's all 911s are uncool.
Oh, now you're just daft.
You think?
I think 911 suck.
I like some of what this audience is saying today.
No, they're
Uncool.
Go somewhere else, Jeremy. They're all...
Super cool.
Thank you, sir.
He's come in an all-black rugby shirt. Go to the back. What do you think, girls?
Seriously cool.
Seriously cool. Seriously cool. How interesting that the girls are wrong and the blokes have got it right.
I mean, it's a brilliant car, but it's got no back seat. It's just got a load of scaffolding and roll bars. You don't have to explain
Let me put it to you this way. I come to take you out in one of these one night. OK, you say to me, why has it got all that scaffolding in the back seat and the ironmongery? I'd have to explain that to you. How interesting do you think that'd be?
Very.
Oh, dear.
I'll go out with you.
Fine. You see, the thing is...
You'd make the second date. Can we move on? Can we just talk about people carriers for a while? Obviously...
Oh, my word.
All of them are uncool. If you buy people... Anyone got one? You have. Basically, what you're saying about yourself, sir, is you've had your children and now you're just waiting to die.
Yeah.
However, the Renault Espace here is cool.
It is.
It's what?
Very, very ugly.
Are you a policewoman?
Yes.
So, as I was saying, it's very, very cool. Because I can do that in here. However, the moment you've all been waiting for, it's the new 5 Series. Right, let's just see you run around the room on it. What do you reckon?
Seriously uncool.
Seriously uncool?
Quite uncool.
Quite uncool?
Cool.
Cool. Do you play golf?
Yes.
Do you play golf?
Yes.
Yep, that's the problem. This car will be bought almost entirely by people who play golf, ergo...
Sorry.
However, this car has given the world a problem because, you see, for years, I know loads of people who've always had 5 Series BMWs. They've all looked at this and went, that is so ugly, there's no way I'm going to have one. So it leaves them a problem. What do they buy? Well, eventually, they're going to have something done with their teeth. And while the dentist has got his bit in their mouths, he's going to say, I've got a Saab. All dentists have Saab, OK? And graphic designers all have them, and all architects have them, and all Stephen Fry's have them. And when you ask someone who's got a Saab why, you always get the same patronising smile. Like they know something we don't, OK? And I think I've worked out what it is, OK? I think it's because they spend all day doing root canals. Then when they drive home, they think, I'm not a dentist, I'm Chuck Yeager.
Saab has been telling us for years that their cars are jets with number plates. The message is clear. Buy a 9.5 and you'll be able to blast a hole in the sound barrier and manoeuvre up your own tailpipe. Really?
I mean, do jet fighters have handbrakes, for instance, or ignition keys down here, or electric windows, or a cup holder? I actually asked a bloke from Saab the other day what elements of this come from the aeronautical industry, and all he could come up with was this night panel button on the dashboard, which turns all the lights and most of the dials off at night. That's it.
That's handy if you want to line up for a bombing run on a Soviet nuclear submarine base. But of limited use on the A38 just outside Burton-on-Trent. There are other differences too. The plane takes off at 137 miles an hour. The car doesn't. The plane is made by Saab. The car is made by General Motors. And finally, the plane uses a Volvo engine.
Now, what I'd like to do at this point, to demonstrate the difference between car and plane even more, is bolt the Stig into the Saab here and have him race a fighter jet round our track. And the trouble is, can you imagine ringing up the Royal Navy and saying, hello, I'm from that pokey motoring programme on BBC Two. Would it be possible to borrow one of your Sea Harriers? You can imagine what the response would be. Yes, they were there in a jiffy. So, top-of-the-range Saab 9.5 Hot Aero versus Sea Harrier FA2.
And they're off. 2.3 litre, 250 horsepower turbo against 21,500 pounds of jet thrust. Harrier's off the ground and already doing 200 miles an hour. Saab's up to 58. Plane's pulling 6G in the corners and the car's still lumbering down the first straight. It's another corner dispatch. And the pilot, yes, I think he's already got the finish line in his crosshairs. And the car, yes, well, here it comes up to the second corner, which is Chicago. A bit of oversteer on the way in and lots of understeer on the way out. And the plane, yes, there it goes across the finishing line. It's Ride of the Valkyries, or as he knows it, the music from the Pirelli advert. Through the follow-through. It is quick. It is quick. Steg's not giving up. I like to see that in a man. But he's nearly lost it going into camber, and he's just held it. And across... Oh, look, the plane's waiting for him. That's nice. What about that? Well done. Brilliant.
The pilot did go a bit wide in some of the corners, didn't he?
He did go wide. He did say, with a Harrier, it would be possible to actually follow the confines of the track, and it would still be faster than the car. But we said, no, go for it. So he did run a bit wide. I mean, over this corner, he was over Brighton. Round here, it was Oxford. Coming round that one, he actually hit Edinburgh. But I have the time. You want to know?
Go on.
31.2 seconds. So, if you could pop that up for us there, Richard. Go on.
Thank you very much.
That's the new fastest thing ever to go around our track.
That might last a bit, that record.
Right, the car, 137.9. That's nearly a second and a half slower than a Honda Civic.
Which takes us back to the original question. Why do those people who have Saabs have that smile on their face? Well, I went back out there to find out.
To drive, it's nice in a quiet, relaxing, non-jet fighter sort of way. Middle-of-the-road motoring from the country that invented middle-of-the-road pop. It costs £27,000, not quite as much as you'd pay for the German alternatives, but not a bargain either.
Inside, I can find very little that would put that smile on the face of the graphic designers and the architects and the dentists who buy these things. The thing I like most of all is this satellite navigation system. You get a touch screen and it lets you choose your language, and you can have English UK and English US. Sort of exactly the same, but with extra adenoids.
I also like the performance. Like all the fastest Euro boxers, it gets from 0 to 60 in 6 or so seconds and keeps on going to 155.
The only trouble is that to get that level of performance from a big car, you need a lot of power. And that's okay with a Mercedes or a Jaguar or a BMW because they're rear-wheel drive, but this isn't. An engineer at Saab once told me that the absolute limit for a front-wheel drive car is 220 brake horsepower. This has 250. Handling is just hysterical. It's like driving a fast, bouncy castle. And if you push too hard in a corner, you just go into a world of smoke and brimstone. You come out of the corner on the other side and everything's fine, except you need some new tyres. This car has a 5-star safety rating. That's the top. But I suspect it has nothing to do with the strength of the passenger cell or the energy absorbance of the front, and everything to do with the fact it's almost impossible to crash it.
So, to sum up, it has foolproof handling, it's quite fast, quite good looking, and it's quite hard to think why anyone would buy this instead of a Merc. Perhaps, though, I'm missing something. Perhaps it's at the cutting edge in some other unusual way.
Somehow, I doubt it. You see, this car is part Vauxhall Vectra, part Saab 9000. And the 9000 is so old that I think I'm right in saying Helen of Troy had one. I think that was the car that the suspension was made out of myrrh.
You have to dig very deep to find the point of this car, but it's worth it. Because it's there, all right. Firstly, it's eco-friendly. The trees hug it as it goes by.
And then there's the mid-range clout. The rate this thing goes in second gear from 40 to 70 miles an hour is just... that is sensational. For overtaking a lorry, never mind a 5 Series BMW, this'll do it quicker than a Porsche 911 Turbo. Treading on the throttle in second gear gives you some idea of what it would be like to tread on a landmine. Woof!
So there you are, the Saab 95. Good in parts, better in others.
What a nice programme it was tonight. Really was. And a nice Saab. I really like that.
I drove a really nice Subaru.
Exactly.
I didn't drown, which is nice.
And we had the lovely Bentley.
That was very
Most of all, though, we had some fantastic people here, and I want you to give them a round of applause from HMS Invincible abroad, a Harrier. And that's all we've got time for, I'm afraid. See you next week. Bye.